What would you trade Cordarrelle Patterson for right now? What would you give up Patterson to get right now? Dave, you can start.
I would love to try and get T. Higgins, who didn't play last week. Maybe people have forgotten about what his upside is. You sell high on Cordarrelle Patterson, you get somebody like T. Higgins. Maybe you even get somebody like George Kittle, who hasn't been quite delivering, but he's playing a premium position, and you know that numbers will eventually come for him. Those would be two guys that I would try. I think I'd be winning the trade if I got those guys for Cordarrelle Patterson.
And I'd go a little lower at tight end. I would also accept Mark Andrews for Cordarrelle Patterson.
I think that's higher.
I would like a rest of season. You'd rather have Andrews than Kittle?
I think so.
Wow, that's a developing situation. Jalen Hurts was the quarterback that I thought of. That I think Jalen Hurts will be a difference maker. I don't know, like trading him for a running back right now feels really weird. I'm not sure I would give him up for T. Higgins, to be honest. But the running back, I would trade him for. Man,
want some names?
I can't find like a buy low running back that I would like to trade him for.
What about would you trade him for a running back who you might consider a sell high, whose value was 0 at one point this year? Zach Moss.
I'd rather have Cordarrelle Patterson.
I don't know if I would. And I know you'd rather have Jacobs. You and I value Jacobs a lot differently. What about Miles Sanders? I'm offering you Miles Sanders right now for Cordarrelle Patterson. You taking that deal?
I think I'd just probably keep Patterson.
I would keep Patterson if it's a PPR league.
How about Daryl Henderson or Patterson?
I'd rather have Henderson, but I don't think you're gonna be able to pull that off. But yeah, I would take Henderson.
You might be able to pull that off only because of the dual eligibility. I mean, it is kind of helpful, but yeah.
Let me give you one more, and then you can move on. David Montgomery.
I would have to be 3-1 at worst.
Right. But I'm 1-3 and I need a running back.
Then I would probably do that. Yeah, probably.
All right. So it sounds like you're buying Patterson as a usable option going forward and not a total fluke. Yeah. Do you think, I know this sounds crazy, but do you think that Russell Gage's eventual return will hurt Patterson in a significant way?
No,
not in a significant way.
I think it might hurt Mike Davis.
Okay. I just want to read something. You mentioned Jalen Hurts, so I know this is off subject, but Michelle Magic, who we've had on our show before at Ball Blastem, she tweeted a few days ago, most fantasy points by a quarterback in his first 8 career starts. Mahomes 1, Deshaun Watson 2, Cam Newton 3, Jalen Hurts 4, Justin Herbert 5. Thought that was pretty interesting. Next topic. What would you trade Debo Samuel for? You are giving up Devos Samuel. You have to get what? Samuel has 490 yards, a 31% target share. He's the number 3 receiver in fantasy. Heath, you're giving up Samuel. You need to get what for Debo?
Yikes. I would need more than I would need for Cordarrelle Patterson.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get something like Tyler Lockett after 2 bad games. Maybe you could get something like, geez Louise, like those running backs we were talking about. Maybe could I have something like a Daryl Henderson plus Michael Pittman?
You could try for something like that.
I mean, so what about Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb? Would you trade Debo for them?
In a heartbeat.
No.
Who's buying Debo more here? It sounds like Heath is buying Debo. Well, Heath's also a little bit down on the Cowboys passing game.
I'm scared to death of the Cowboys passing game. If they come out and throw the ball 25 times this week against the Giants, and why wouldn't they? Then I think that you got a full-on Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are number 3 wide receivers.
Yeah. Their value could free fall after this week, maybe after next week. But Debo, to me, and we talked about it on the live show on Tuesday, he's like the ultimate sell high receiver. Drafted him in the mid-round or later, and he's been getting crazy targets while the 49ers offense has been fairly discombobulated. and it's now going to be put in Trey Lance's hands for a week. Then they're on bye, and we'll see how they come out of it. Listen, I think Debo's great, but if you can turn him into Michael Pittman and Daryl Henderson, I think that's a steal.
Wait a second. Really? First of all, Pittman has done almost nothing. He has had
Pittman's my favorite buy low, so we could just do that part right now.
Fantastic
so many targets. I hope so. I like that, but he's not doing much with the targets except for the Rams game. And what about when Hilton comes back? That's going to happen eventually. Maybe he won't be such a target hog at that point.
Right, but you're not getting just Michael Pittman for Devos Samuel. You're also getting a potential top 12 running back rest of season in Daryl Henderson.
Buying in a lot to Henderson, huh? That's top 12.
I mean,
potential.
How many running backs out there are getting 90% of the snaps with their teams and are playing in high-scoring offenses?
I think what's happened with Debo, with me, and it's the same thing that's happening with Marquise Brown. I put out a dynasty trade poll on Twitter yesterday and just got killed for suggesting that someone might give up a first-round pick in dynasty for Marquise Brown.
Really? So you're saying people don't think that that's enough, or people think
people are not buying these potential third-year wide receiver breakouts? And if I wonder if it's because we decided in the last 2 years that the wide receiver breakout year is now year 2 and not year 3. And so the guys that didn't break out year 2, everybody gave up on. But Samuel is getting a huge number of targets. He's running a more complete route tree. He looks more like a real wide receiver. They don't have the ability right now to run the ball like they have in the past. Now, by the end of the year, maybe that will change, but it's been multiple different running backs that are not having the success in the running game that they have in the past. In the past, it's not had anything to do with the actual running backs. It's been because they generated 4 yards before anybody touched them. They're not doing that right now.
Well, that's a little unfair to Mostert. I think Mostert's
Raheem Mostert led the NFL in yards before contact. He would average 4 or 5 yards before contact.
But he also did plenty after the fact, and he's the best running back on the team. I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter.
He was made by the San Francisco system.
I don't agree with that.
He's a UDF. Like he's okay.
I don't completely. I mean, look,
he tried 6 other teams and it didn't work.
Obviously, it helped, but he had I always bring this up. He had the 2 fastest plays in the NFL by a running back.
What generates the fastest plays? Running for 30 yards with nobody in front of you.
Speed. He's fast. He's really fast, and he's much better than
Daniel Jones has the faster sprint speed than Lamar Jackson. Is he faster than Lamar Jackson?
Why is Trey Sermon so much better? Why isn't Trey Sermon doing better? Why didn't Eli Mitchell do better?
Because what I just said.
Why does Raheem Mostert consistently do better than every other running back in that system? He has been the best. Why is that so hard to accept? I don't know why you just don't like Raheem Mostert.
I do not dislike Raheem Mostert, but it is true that the 49er system made him.
No, it is true that
he would probably have never been a fantasy relevant running back had he not gone to San Francisco.
He had plenty to do with. He's good. No, I mean that might be true, and it was arguably one of the best systems for sure. But he's good. Whatever. Let's get back to Debo.
What a wonderful debate about a guy that no one can use in fantasy football potentially ever again.
Well, no, look, they're not running the ball as well. Their defense is average. I think they're 22nd in scoring defense. So right now they're below average. Maybe it's a legit breakout. How about this? If you take away the 2 flukiest plays for him, right? So the
long touchdown, right?
The entire catch, but the 50+ yards and the touchdown after the defender falls down, and the 76-yard touchdown from last week where he was wide open. You shouldn't remove them because that happens to some receivers. Right? But even if you did, he's a top 20 wide receiver. He's 18th in non-PPR, and he's, I think, 14th in full PPR, even without those 2 plays. So is he, in your mind, at least a top 20 wide receiver going forward, Devos Samuel?
Yes.
I've got him 22nd in non-PPR rest of season, higher than that in full PPR.